Hello and welcome to the Red Bra Project. I'm Renee. I'm your I was going to say co-host tonight, but I'm running solo tonight. Shauna could not join us. She's so bummed out because we have another incredible guest for you this week on our Woman Crush Wednesday. But we are so excited to be here with you. So it's myself and my guest running solo today. So our amazing guest for episode number 66 on the Red Bra Project is Laura Staley. So Laura is going to share with us so much great insight and feeling and kind of her own personal journey about becoming complete with your space and your intuition and the things and cherishing just your objects and kind of decluttering and kind of everything behind that, which is so good. I mean, I'm not going to give it all away, but especially this year, we've had a lot of home and workplace merging. So there's a lot of trying to figure it all out. But before we get there, welcome to the Red Bra Project, Laura. It's so great to meet you.
Oh, thank you so much, Renee. It's truly a joy and an honor to be here. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about where you're coming from today? There's a beautiful picture behind you, but tell us
Oh,
about
I know.
your
Oh, gosh. So I relocated to Western North Carolina. I live now in Black Mountain, and it's gorgeous. It's the hills are alive with the sound of music. And it's so great because, boy, talk about planting a vision and not knowing how passionate I have always been about the mountains. But I had people ask me, how is it that you ended up there? Well, I fell in love 30 years ago when I got to experience the Blue Ridge Parkway. I literally wept when I saw the Blue Ridge Mountains. And it was in the winter time, so I didn't even see them in the glory of springtime or summertime or, oh my gosh, autumn. And so it's just been a delicious experience to be in a place that absolutely feeds and nourishes my soul. And it all goes back to, of course, the sound of music and falling in love with Maria, her character, her passion, her joy, and those opening scenes still move me to tears before she even comes out and swings her arm around and starts singing, right? And I look back and I realize I had placed images of mountains in just about every space that I lived, including my college dorm room.
Really?
And that was before I understood the ideas of feng shui, which is what I ended up getting trained and certified in. But all paths lead to your soul.
Isn't that interesting? Isn't it so cool to look back where you are and then when you really think about the dots that kind of connected to get you there, and maybe some of the moments that you thought were dead ends or no's or why they aren't working out, but they were actually leading you to the place you're supposed to be. Because I mean, it just gives me goosebumps.
Oh, completely. It truly is amazing to have these, exactly like you described, those junctures where from that fresh perspective of where you are now, like, okay, we're now 2020. And then, looking back at my life and of course, looking forward to the things that I'm anticipating for the future, but being able to go, oh my gosh, the universe, God, faith, letting the soft animal of my body love what it loves and really listening there, like that's from a Mary Oliver poem that I love. It just like, oh my gosh, my gut, my faith were always guiding me to exactly where I was supposed to be. Now, it was a bumpy ride. It still can be at times, right? I mean, it probably will be to the very end, but, there's also part of me going, woohoo, another bump in the road, yay! Because I trust now. I trust that inner knowing, that inner passion, and I find that I'm much better at leaning in to that deep voice within that's been with me all my life. And I now call it my inner quiet Charlotte. It used to be the inner fly on the wall. That's what the label I came up with. And I know some people call it inner knowing. Some people call it Sebastian. Other people call it the witness consciousness. There's like fancy names for it, but it's actually that part of you, that part of me that is connected to everything and can watch and hear ourselves and life and stand in awe and wonder in front of a sunset or the beautiful autumn trees or the sunshine and feel it on our faces and, you know, experience life from that witness, that voyeur, that quiet one who hears the words that are actually coming out of my mouth right now and knows that my hands are doing this, right? Right. Yeah. So yeah, it's an amazing experience to connect those dots and realize, dare I say, God or the universe has been with me all along, which kind of moves me, right?
Mm,
Sometimes
for sure. It's so
I
powerful.
always trusted that, right? Because people can be, whoo, human beings and interactions with human beings is kind of, whoo, okay.
We are not perfect. That is true. We are not perfect.
And even with myself, it's like, whoo, okay, wow, what was that?
So to hear you describe kind of listening to that inner voice, and not listening to, we all have different names, and some of our guests has, I crack up. One of our guests, Veronica, she calls him the drunk monkey that comes across like slamming his tambourines together when he's trying to talk you out of something, and you've just got to shut it down. But you know, you have a pivotal point where you remember that you finally leaned into trusting your intuition versus maybe trying to not fight against it, but figure something else out. When did you start trusting it? Do you know?
Wow. I mean, I suppose in some form or fashion, though I was terrified, honestly, through most of my childhood, teen years, and early adulthood, I also knew that when I was out in nature and kind of in touch with that deep inside, because literally for my own, dare I say, soul, psyche, survival, because of all the challenging things and traumas that were happening, I literally found sacred space inside. So I would say absolutely in my childhood, because I began to discern that contrast space between this chaotic experience with human beings, right? And blah, terrifying things that went down, and the peace of nature. So when I ran outside of my parents' house or the church that my parents went to, or even a school building, right? Because in all three of those spaces, woo, okay, a little dicey. I was able to like really deeply connect and trust that a tree wouldn't yell at me, that the dirt wouldn't, you know, somehow erupt around me and swallow me under, that the birds wouldn't all of a sudden start pecking at my skin, right? I knew that there was kind of this, there was this cycle, there was this peace, there was this sacredness. And even during a thunderstorm, which can be scary, right? The loud rumbling thunder, it still wasn't like the experience of being with a loud rumbling, raging adult when you're in this tiny body, you know, and you literally think they're going to kill you or they're threatening your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I never, thank goodness, you know, I didn't live through a violent thunderstorm that, you know, where I got hit by lightning or something. So I'm sure other people could have a different experience of nature that's utterly terrifying. But honestly, mine were awe and wonder and wow, I could just trust that somehow my body, soul, psyche, mind, heart were safe in nature. And like we were saying earlier, with what I now call that inner quiet Charlotte, like I literally, I think was just forced to, no, I chose to, I suppose I chose to get really introspective, because I was attempting to navigate a very chaotic childhood, very unpredictable, volatile, and so having that witness in there going, okay, what's that frown mean? What's that expression mean? What do those sounds mean? Because in my household, it wasn't a string of empty alcohol bottles. It generally was just people's own internal, or, you know, other adults too in my life, their own internal mishigas that just kept, you know, hurt people, right? It was their own unresolved pain coming blopping out into the space. So learning to go inside and be that kind of hyper vigilant, which is the downside. But the good side is I was really sensitive and so aware of everything, like 360 degrees of what was happening around me. And the gift of that today, Renee, is I can walk into spaces and feel things and notice things that maybe nobody else can see, observe, or notice, or maybe a couple of us do. And then we look at each other and go, yeah, geez, yeah. And we're like, oh, I got you, right? Because for whatever reason, that empath or their training, like my training, taught them to be, super aware of everything, the beauty, the challenge, the people calling a bag of chips a ketchup bottle, and you're going, okay, no, I'm pretty sure it's a bag of chips. Right. And learning to trust, even though people are trying to twist reality, to really ground in my own lived experience and truth, even when people didn't believe me, because I put voice to my truths pretty consistently. I mean, I would stop then when I was met by, that didn't happen, and I didn't act that way, and I didn't say that, and that's not real, and that couldn't have been, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm pretty, and again, I would go to that deep part of me and go, yeah, no, it really did go down that way. Mm-hmm. And then I kept all the DVRs inside that I'm able to pull out and know exactly where I was, what was said to me, the energy in which it was said, and what the person was wearing, how they smelled, just like, which of course, again, the gift of that is the writing that comes out of me can take people to a 5-8 sensory experience, right? Because yeah. I was living an 8 sensory experience. I was feeling my grumbling tummy or my nauseous tummy, along with the sun on my face, and the words that are coming out of this person's mouth, and the smell of coffee in the background, and, percolating on the stove, or, like all of that was there in that 8 sensory experience. And, and I saved it for whatever reason, like a superpower, I don't know, but I can pull up those files and watch them and listen to them and glean new lessons and connect with the truth of what I experienced, no matter how others attempted to rewrite reality. Yeah.
Wow, that is so, I mean, it's very interesting to think about, and just with all of the stimulation and the feeling, and, like you said, kind of a 360 experience, which is a great segue into what you do. I mean, as far as helping people to love their space and love their life and get rid of things. So kind of talk to us about that. So I know that you didn't just start there, you got there through a journey of your own. So what happened in your life to lead you kind of to where you are helping others to not just declutter, but appreciate and love their space?
Right. Well, and know that it's a dance between that inner aspirations and dreams and imagination of the soul and their space. So it's kind of like this holistic transformation. I came to it, interestingly enough, by way of a flood of a finished basement that happened on Valentine's night. And a month later, I was with a relative at the time, and I had little kids, and I was a full-time mom, married at that juncture. And she was just like all excited about this thing, feng shui. And I was like, what is this feng shui, chop suey? I don't know, what is this? And she goes, no, it's about your space. It's about the quality of your life. It's about having it be inspiring so that you can go about living the life of your dreams. And she handed me this book, Tara Catherine Collins' Western Guide to Feng Shui, Room by Room. And I opened it, Renee, and I read at the top, live with belongings that you love. And I was like, what? It's stuff, and yet I was intrigued, right? Because I'm like, what? Live with things that you love? What is, So, and I ended up reading the whole book. She just said, oh, take it with you on the airplane. I walk back in my house and I look around and I see all these hand-me-downs that I loathe. And then I looked at my life. Now, I didn't loathe my life, but I also saw that I had been handed a lot of scripts. I had earned a PhD in political science. I had taught college students, political science classes, which, I loved that experience, but was it really in my heart, right? Or was I trying to perform and, meet the expectations of, my dad, my mom? I mean, people want you to be a senator. They want you to be this or that. And it was like, oh my God, that whole thing of living according to somebody else's expectations, right? And realizing, oh my gosh, these low hand-me-downs are kind of a metaphor for the life that I've designed. Now, the good news is I really, really, really wanted to be a mom and a full-time mom. And I knew that from the moment I was a little girl. So I was really blessed to be inside that experience for a decade. Yeah. But this moment planted that aha seed called, oh my gosh, I could, like in that moment, I became aware that I could find my voice. And I found a passion for a lifetime, right? So we had already lost a whole bunch of belongings because of the flood, right? And so then I went about letting go of a whole lot more. And then I really generally took my time to look and see what I loved and what I physically wanted in my space, and that would nourish and inspire me. And then later I went on and got certified. In the back of that exact same book was information about becoming a practitioner. And so in 2004, I got certified. I took the training in 2003, then did all the best homework of my life and got certified the following year and birthed the company, Cherish Your World. And it really is about supporting people and their aha moment. Because here's the thing, Renee, our physical spaces are metaphors for exactly what's happening right here. The good, the bad, the ugly, the, the ooh clutter and the ooh clutter, and, the treasures that you buried, right? And the treasures that you're burying in your heart that you haven't been sharing with the world, because we have so many gifts, right? But we can bury ourselves in our own mental clutter and our heart clutter, right? Without resolving those emotional things. And we can, stuff physical clutter all in all the nooks and crannies of our home, or, right out in view sometimes, right? That if somebody walked in, they're like, okay.
For sure.
And it's not about judgment. It's more like the opportunity to go, wow, I've outpictured some belongings here that no longer serve me. I've got 200 pairs of black slacks that I just don't wear. And maybe I did that because I don't think I'm enough. Mm-hmm. And so I overcompensated with an abundance of black jeans or slacks, right? And you call it down to your top five and you're like, woo! And you're freed up, right? Because then those resources that you were putting towards trying to compensate for not being enough can now be put consciously and intentionally towards experiences that you might want to have. You can begin investing in your self-care. Maybe you really wanted to take a yoga class, or learn more about feng shui, or purchase a book that exposes you to new ideas, or you finally are going to move to Costa Rica, right? Because, oh my gosh, instead of your resources bleeding out towards these things that really don't inspire you and 2 days later turn into some form of clutter, right? It's going towards an experience of being alive that you really, really, really want to have. So that's the opportunity. That's the invitation. I love what I do. I love how it's deepened. I love that I ask people meaningful questions. Yeah, it's super cool.
It sounds like that when you read that book on the airplane that was given to you by that woman, it was the right time. And it sounds like the journey just started there. And when you walked back into your home, everything that you had just read about. I mean, talk about perfect timing. You're not in your home and reading about it. So you've got a great perspective when you walk back in and you look around and you're like, whoa, 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 I can't breathe. So
right. And the amazing thing is it went deep. It was clothing. It was jewelry. Like, who was I? I was a walking hand-me-down, like chameleon lady,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And like everyone else had handed me scripts and I was like, okay. And they were like, oh, you'd be good at this, Laura. And I'm like, okay.
Mhm.
Instead of really listening deep within to what life expression did I want to be next, be beyond a mom. And of course, motherhood was a beautiful and hugely learning expression and experience for me to this very moment. I mean, they're both adults now, but I'm still, thank goodness, a mom. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that is a very amazing and just rewarding and difficult job all in one for all of our mamas. And so it's amazing. So that's number one.
Yeah.
With the feng shui, how would you kind of explain that in a simplified way for anybody listening who's heard the word, but like you, it's kind of like, what exactly does that mean? Do I have to turn my whole life upside down? How would you talk about that? And what could that bring to someone's life?
Yeah. It's a way, so feng shui is the art and practice, very important practice of arranging your physical space to enhance the quality of your life.
Oh,
And
I
it
love
goes
it.
deep, right? And it goes deep and wide, right? Because it includes just about everything. It includes your calendar. It's about empowering what you're connected to. So actually looking at what you're connected to and who you're connected to and what are the things that you're connected to. So in that way, it's very holistic. What are the limiting thoughts that you're connected to that you can disconnect from? Who are the people in your life that are energy vampires that you need to disconnect from?
Mm,
And literally walk away in grace and dignity. And, thank you for all the lessons. And my life is going off in this direction
that's
to
interesting.
like high quality relationships.
Mm,
So for me, it's not just about painting your door red. I mean, people could go online and see all kinds of rules and regs. For me, it's really tapping deep inside your soul and asking yourself those deep, meaningful questions. What is the space that supports me? What are the belongings that deeply empower me and inspire me to want to get up in the morning and live the next day and do what I love and do what I'm meant to do here on the planet, especially, right now as things are shifting and changing, that you're so passionate about that no matter how many obstacles that get thrown at you, you'll still keep going, right? So to do that deep dive and keep doing that deep dive. And of course, the clutter clearing is an ongoing process, in the heart. Because if, like me, you've grown up with lots of trauma and blah happened, there's a clearing, there's a cleansing process, there's a healing and the transformation that needs to take place in your heart, your mind, and your soul to set down and shred those limiting beliefs, take the thorns out of your heart, and absolutely take the physical clutter out of your space.
mhm.
Don't have anything in your space that gives you the creeps that you feel obligated to hold on to.
Mhm.
Like, I often see myself as just kind of this fun Tinkerbell, giving people permission, just waving my wand and saying, tell me about this object. And if they're saying, oh my gosh, this is a hanky, this white cloth is from my dad and I love it and I'm going to have it till the day I pass. Well, no, you're not going to let go of that white cloth to somebody else. They might go, well, why is she hang? Who cares what anybody says about that white cloth? Because for you, it's your dad and every positive, loving memory of your dad. So you keep that. But what else is in your space that is you're going, why is that still here? Right? And can I cleanse and purge and free myself from these physical things along with the emotional? And it was so interesting because I had another conversation with a woman who really got this, and she didn't realize it, but like she had a wedding dress, and I actually had a session. I work confidentially, so I've been given permission. But anyway, the point is they had these items in their house that in the process of consciously choosing to let them go, they realized all these thoughts and emotions came flooding up as they were carrying, the wedding dress out of the physical space, and I had that experience too. Mine happened to be at my parents' home. And I had this moment of having the divorce papers sitting shotgun in my vehicle and the wedding dress in the back of the car. I was like, wow, this is some feng shui convergence, right?
Oh, yeah.
And this, like the feelings and the thoughts that all got to offload. So
I was going to say, did you jump into a red convertible after that and put the top down and let your hair go?
Exactly. And, out of the minivan, the family minivan.
That's right.
I know. Well, I now have a Subaru, a blue Bliss. I call it Bliss Blue. I eventually got there. But yeah, it's kind of like that, because sometimes people may hear this and go, really? But then when they're in the experience of actually decluttering, all these emotions that they didn't know were in their heart come flooding forward, and they finally get to do the grief work and set down all those thoughts about, oh, I suck at marriage, or I suck at relationships, or whatever it is, right? And just go, oh no, I learned so much. What am I grateful for? And thank you, wedding dress, for teaching me so many rich lessons about love and marriage and all this stuff that I made it mean that it doesn't mean at all, and the things that I learned along the way. So it becomes this blessing and this cleansing and this healing for those who choose that path.
It's so much more than just stuff. It's your meaning that you have with that stuff. And
oh, the stories. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Like, so, I'm imagining you have a story, you knew where you were when you got your yellow headband, or even
yeah, that's so funny. This is
right, or
a headband for hope, or a headband of hope. So it's from an organization where part of the money goes towards kids with cancer. And yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just cancer, but yeah. So, and the funny thing that you bring that up, but I live in a bus, in a motor coach. So we are in a coach. So I had to learn, the whole idea about stuff. And even now, I travel when it's not COVID, for my job. So I manage events, and I'm on the road about 10 months out of the year. And so I'm living in and out of a suitcase. And so whenever I bring in a new piece of clothing, I don't have room to just keep adding. So if I number one, I have to love it. It's got to be worth it. So it keeps me from buying all of like the half off clearance stuff. Oh, this is cute, but it's not really cute, but it's only $4. I should just throw it in my cart. So all of that stopped because I have nowhere to put it. So I may give myself a very stern rule of, if it comes in, something has to go out, because there's only so much room in your suitcase.
Oh, a beautiful practice.
Yes, but you definitely, like you said, as I'm listening to you speak, like, I can definitely reapply that same mentality to so many other areas of your life, and just have that freeing moment. So that's exactly what you help your clients do, right?
I do. Yeah. It's all about joy and freedom. What's the cyclical path, their path to get them to those to have more and more experiences, so they're living aligned with their deepest, truest life purpose. So I'm thinking you probably likely are, right? Because you just, you're on the road, you get to have these experiences with people, you get to interview women, and and then more and more the joy that you experience in your life, in the Red Bra Project, in supporting others, your yellow headband. How beautiful is that your life becomes a rich gift of giving and love and service, and of course receiving graciously, but then turning right around and giving generously. Yeah, it's so beautiful. You're just kind of like a model of feng shui, and sure, there's already something to learn, but I have a feeling you're just rocking it out already.
No, trust me, there's lots of room for improvement over here. Yeah. But I've come a long way. But I understand the meaning behind the stuff and what it feels like to only have so much space to put the things that you love into it. And that's our normal culture though. You grow up thinking I want a big house, or you graduate from your starter home to a larger home, and then you have a shed outside for all of your lawn stuff or for the kids stuff and bikes and boats. And we just are a community, a culture of stuff that's normal. That's the normal, that's the way we have evolved in a sense. So it's almost like we gotta learn to scale that back and figure out what does bring you joy and why, or is it just a headache?
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and do the meaningful, deeper work. I mean, that's what's meaningful to me, is not to just work at the surface level of, does this bring you joy? Does it not? No, let's do the deeper dive of, what are the thorns in your heart? What are the limiting beliefs that you've been carrying around that you can shed, that can free you for the experiences that you really want to have?
I love that. So I'm sure do you work with a certain amount of clients per year? And how long does somebody work with you if they're interested? How does that work?
Well, I've followed up with people. Some people just will do, a 3-hour session. They're in transition, whatever kind of transition. A lot of people come to me because they're in some kind of transition, career transition, like life transition, relationship transition, right? And it's a great time to, do that deeper dive work. Some of those individuals will cycle back and work with me again at the new place. So I've my clients kind of run the gamut for those who, I just trust their process. They know they've had this experience with me. If they want to reach out again and, have a tune up, awesome. If they want to just interact with my newsletters, that's great. I think my favorite clients are the folks that are just ready. They're really eager to learn. They're eager to see their space from a new perspective. And they've tried all kinds of other things, and they're just kind of like, okay, tried that, done that. None of these other things worked. Maybe this wisdom can be applied and inspire me to stay in a practice. Because like I said earlier, it really is a practice, Renee. I mean, anything that we really want to shift in our lives, it's a process and a practice. It's not a one and done.
Right.
I mean, some people could do the whoosh. I call it the big whoosh, right? Where they just go in and in a weekend, right? They get rid of everything, right? But if they haven't done the deeper dive of the patterns of shopping or acquiring or accumulating, like you were pointing out, that our culture is so driven to shop and buy and accumulate, that they'll just fill that space right back up, right? So that practice of really discerning and doing the deeper dive work of, wait a minute, what really does get to come into my space now that I've gotten it clean and cleared, and what experiences get to come into my life that I would really love to have happen. And can I put my life energy and focus on those things and engage in practices that keep me on top of my game, if you will, not just your game, but your awakening.
I love it. It sounds so exciting. It sounds, it sounds like hard work. It is. It's going to be inner reflection, and you may have to answer some tough questions, but also the new stuff that you're making room for, the experiences or just the space, both mentally and emotionally, and with the stuff. That's just so cool. So good for you. I mean, I think that your story and, how it went from flooding your basement and, reading the book on the airplane, and I love the name of Cherish Your World. It's so fitting. So that's really awesome.
Yeah.
And here you are all these years later teaching feng shui to everybody.
Right. Yep. It is such an honor. And honestly, I'll do it the rest of my life, because it is about self-discovery. And when do we not stop learning something about ourselves and our lives and the quality of our lives? Because, hard things happen, hard things are happening in people's lives right now. And I continue to hear things that are happening for people, and yet beautiful and celebratory things happen also. So how can we embrace the ride and be in the process, in the practice of living true and ongoingly opening to those healings and transformations?
Yeah, which is a good, you just kind of gave me a reminder for this question, just with having home and workplace all merged for so many people and families, and school and education, everything under one roof in 2020. What advice do you have for anybody who's struggling to figure out how in the world to make all of these things happen under one roof and still have your sanity?
Right. Yeah. Oh, it is so tough for people right now. I know I continue to hear the stories. I think for sure, for those who can create private sacred space, even if it's a chair, like I had a home where I had a peace chair, and it was, the place that I sought calm and refuge for deep self-care. Because when we are emotionally regulated, especially for the moms out there, then we're taking that deep self-care, maybe getting up a little bit earlier to carve out that corner space. Or if you have a whole room, oh gosh bless you. Right. But to have that space where you have the things that nourish you and that calm you and inspire you, a view out the window, going out in nature, I think is essential right now. Standing barefoot out in nature and connecting deeply to your heart, mind, and body, and getting in that place of emotional regulation. So as these shifts and changes, as you're navigating, oh my gosh, these people are all in my household, and each individual member of the family, if a sacred space can be created for each member to kind of retreat to, if you will, so that they can refuel, and especially depending on the personality of the individuals. Some children really do need quiet. They don't need more stimulation. They don't need more electronic time. They just need to get outside and stand in the dirt and look for some bugs, right? Yeah. And breathe. And to intentionally create those opportunities to commune with nature, commune inside with oneself, and take those deep breaths, and then begin to ask yourself what each room's purpose is. What is the kitchen actually for? And are all the things in the kitchen serving the purpose of the kitchen? The bedroom is about restorative night sleep. And if you've got bills and the exercise equipment and the kids' toys all in your bedroom, and then you wonder why you're not sleeping at night, wow, okay, can you just set the timer for 15 minutes and clear out as many of those, what I call wandering nomads, out of that bedroom, to make it a sacred, restorative, restful place. For some people, they're really sensitive to electronics, and we now know that the blue light really does hit us. So turn off those electronics at 7:30 at night. For everybody in the family, that would be a recommendation. Try it for a week. See if that settles everybody's nervous system down so that they're feeling more emotionally regulated. By the way, there's a lot of neuroscience that backs this 3,000-year-old wisdom, which I just love that. In fact, there's a field called neuroarchitecture, which is all just like straight out of these ideas that the ancient masters discovered way back when. So yeah, be intentional about the space. You wouldn't want to have the lawnmower in the bathroom, right? Or a lawnmower in the kitchen, so get those physical objects to the right space where they actually belong, or if you can put a cloth over them at night. So if you can't move the exercise equipment out of the bedroom, Can you put a screen in front of it, put a cloth over that exercise equipment so that when you walk in, you're cued that it is time to sleep, and you're not confused by, oh my God, I haven't exercised all day and I can't sleep at night. Because that's a double message, that a bedroom with all of those different things in it sends. That's the message it sends, right? Is, wow, what am I supposed to do right now? As opposed to, wait a minute, this is sacred space for restorative rest.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I love how you gave the option of covering something up or using, like well, I don't know what the word is.
Those screens, those
like changing ones, and you can get something on the outside, because people are limited in space, and especially right now with you merging everything together, people may not have the space to physically move things out. So that's a great alternative.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think declutter as much as you possibly can. So you've got that breathing room for the members of your household, for your spouse, so that people aren't just like, suffocating by too much stuff and too much energy of trying to navigate this new reality of home, work, school, all happening in one maybe very small building or very small apartment. And I have huge compassion for all of us who are doing that. I mean, it's kind of funny. Like, I could have a vulnerable moment right here. Like, I'm in a guest room. I have a significant other who's an I spire, so he happens to keep things out in view. He could sleep through that, but I couldn't. So we get to sort that out in conversation, and respectful conversation, in relationship with one another. So that's the other thing I would say, is honor somebody's different personality style. I hear from people, if he only would, blah, 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 get rid of his blah, 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 blah. And I often say, be the change that you want to see in your household. So if you want a more calm household, if you want a more clutter-free household, have at yours. And I remember, I've worked with a number of people who have had that, and then they go, and then I'll say, well, is there any clutter in this house that's just wholly yours? And they'll go, yeah. And it's not to judge them, but to say, okay, shift that. Start with you. Start with whoever's listening to this right now and is inspired by this. Start with you. You can be the change in your household. So if you become freer, happier, more aligned, more emotionally regulated in your body, heart, mind, and soul, and with your belongings, wow, the members of your household are really going to pay attention. They're going to go, wow, what happened to mom? She is not this agitated, upset, ready to explode human being. She's actually found her sea legs in the midst of all of this change. And wow, I wonder how I can support that.
I love that. Be the change you want to see. And I know that's one of the ways that we talk about compassion and how you empower others. And, you it starts with you and what you're putting out there. And do you want to share any more about that?
Yeah, I guess I would just say I've lived through a lot. I just recently, just this last year, lost both my parents and a dog about a month ago. The dog I had for 7 years. I had dogs in our family life for I think I realized it was 16. I don't know, but the point is, I know what it is to grieve. I know what it is to love. I know the hard things that people can go through. I may not know your exact hard thing, but I know that I can come to these conversations with a huge heart and a real deep compassion for whatever challenge you might be navigating, and with very little judgment, because I got it going on myself, and it's part of why I tell the stories that I do so vulnerably and honestly, because like you were talking about the clanging monkey. I'm like, okay, I got terrified Tammy, and I got jealous Judy, and I've got all these characters inside myself, right? Just like You probably do. And,
Wow.
and to just not, not feed the ones that really don't serve me. But when I see it in someone else, I can go, I know what that feels like. When I see somebody really, really upset and, blowing up at their kids, I've done it. Right. And I can go, wow, I know what that feels like. I know what it feels to be stressed and terrified and sleep deprived. Right. Probably hungry. Maybe when was the last time you sat down and had a healthy meal and put good nutrition and hydration, clean water into your body. Right. But I know I have kids. I know how intense it can be. So, and I know space, how intense space can be. I mean, if we go right into the heart of that flood, oh my gosh. You're just saying,
Oh
two
yeah.
pretty upset adults,
Yeah.
and having at it because we were just flipping freaking the F out, right?
Oh,
It was not our finest moment. But, we came through that one, and I know the marriage ultimately ended, but so much growth, so much learning, so many blessings, so many gratitudes inside of the heart. So
yeah.
yeah.
And just like you said, it's those stories, sharing the stories, even though it's not going to be exactly what somebody else went through. Maybe they can pick up a little bit of, wisdom from your story and a little gem from this other story and something else from someone else's to be able to kind of power through and get through their own.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because we all know what it feels like to be scared. We know what it feels like to grieve. We know what it feels like to lose someone or something or a job that you've worked at for 30 years that you just love. And all
Right.
of a sudden it's just kind of gone up in smoke. And now what, and trying to, recreate and reboot and reset and, hopefully not totally power through, but maybe lie down and take a nap.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
And get
You
that
have to
restorative
unplug to recharge.
and then, get up and power through. But
That's
I always
great.
say go to the bedroom first, because if you can get a good night's sleep and you can get that bedroom in a place where you can get restorative sleep, that's a great place to start. So anyway, yeah.
Good advice right there. Yes, good night's sleep does so much for the head.
It does.
So we ask all of our guests, and we love this question because it can be something big, it can be something small. So we love learning about what your red bra moment is. And a red bra, when Shauna and I had thought about the red bra project, it's that strength that that you have. It doesn't have to be on the outside. You're not walking around showing it off. You have it inside. Nobody may know that you're wearing it. It doesn't matter. You don't have to flaunt it, but it's there. And so they're big and small moments. And for some people, those small moments are literally the moments that led to the big moments in their life, but they wouldn't have been able to get there if they didn't take that small moment, first little step. So with all of that said, do you have a particular red bra moment that really plays on your heart a lot?
Yeah, the one that's bubbling up inside me as you described that, was the moment that, my whole life had turned upside down. My son was struggling with his struggles. He was a teen. My daughter had gone off to college. The marriage had come to an end. And did I need a survival job? Could I move forward and go whole out with Cherish Your World? I had no idea. I was so confused. And yet, like you said, that deep passion was in me. And there was a gentleman that I forever grateful to. I will never forget this moment. Ken Lazar, he's the founder of Ability Professionals, and he facilitates Tuesday Tune Up, which is a business networking organization. And he had been supporting me putting together my LinkedIn profile. I'd been going to all these different classes. I didn't even know what LinkedIn was, 5 years ago. And but at any rate, he just, I was expressing, gosh, I don't know. And he looked at me and he said, Laura, you've got to be Cherish Your World. It's who you are. It's your heart. It's your passion. It's your purpose. And to this day, his seeing me bigger than I could see myself in that moment, gave me the courage to be in this moment with you right now, still vibrant for Cherish Your World, still adapting, shifting, growing, 3 books published and out in the world. I'm forever grateful to Ken Lazar, because sometimes it's in that tiny conversation where another human being sees the goodness in you and speaks it and fuels it. And I will always be grateful. So thank you, Ken Lazar, for that red bra moment. I know you didn't think it was a red bra moment, but
no, but
he's utterly respectful of women colleagues, and just I hold him in the utmost. I revere the kind of person he is, and I know he's made a huge difference for a lot of people in career transition, and is engaged with that even as we speak. They had a Tuesday tune-up this morning, so.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, I know it was touching and vulnerable, and to hear about the power of listening and sharing with someone else what you see in them, and that it does make a difference. It does. If you see it, say it. If you want to give the compliment to a stranger, to a friend, to a bestie, to your family member, do it, because you're a shining example of how much his words empowered you. Oh,
right up to
sending you a virtual hug.
I know, right? Yeah.
That's so awesome. And so you mentioned your 3 books. I know we didn't get to chat too much about them, but you just had your latest one released in April, which is so exciting. So tell us a little bit about your books and where our listeners and viewers can get their hands on them.
Right. So there's Live Inspired that launched April 27th. It's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, independent bookstores, published through Sacred Stories Publishing. You can also go to their site. The other, I have an essay also in a 4th book, Crappy to Happy, that is now a #1 bestseller in anthologies. I'm one of 30 beautiful writers who tell their real life stories of coming through hard things and finding that happiness, because we all live through crappy things.
What was that book called?
Crappy to Happy.
Crappy to Happy. That's good.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm part of that anthology. So I have an essay in there, and it's an outstanding book. I highly recommend it, especially right now. And then Live Inspired, which is stories of self-discovery. And I definitely weave in the feng shui, but it's not overt. Let go courageously and live with love. Transform your life with feng shui. That book, I also tell stories. I begin with From a Flood to Feng Shui. So I tell that rich story, but almost all essays in that book include gentle ideas and suggestions for your life. And that's especially great for families, because I've got lots of ideas in that book about children, small children, growing children, teens, that may be really useful to families right now. And then the 3rd one is a gift book of 100 tips to enhance your home and your life that I generated during that time of my crazy life turning inside out and upside down. And I know I've gotten great feedback on all of these. They're all available also on my website. The only one that's only available through my website, and Etsy, is the Cherish Your World gift book of 100 tips. All 3 other books are available, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and some independent bookstores. So, yeah.
Oh, they sound like fantastic reads. That's so exciting. And I mean, you target everybody. If you've got something in there for children of different ages, that's great too, because parents, it's not just about cleaning up your own stuff, it's helping others to go through the process with you. So that's so awesome.
Absolutely.
Laura,
I know I had a bank teller tell me that she started reading Live Inspired, and her 14-year-old daughter actually set down her phone and saw that her mom was reading this book and picked it up, and she was so thrilled. So they began reading it together, and they both really, really loved it. I was so moved by that story. Yeah. So
that is awesome. Yeah, it's fantastic. Thank you so much, Laura, for being our guest and sharing part of your journey and your story and your heart-driven passion. And I know that, I mean, our listeners out there, everybody picks up different things from different stories, like we said, and your story is for sure going to inspire and help kind of give somebody hope, and maybe even the ability to reach out to you and have you help to guide them.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to do that. I'm cherishyourworld.com. That's where
Perfect.
anybody can find me. And just, thank you for this amazing conversation, Renee, and the chance and the generous listening and the exchange of words and love, dare I say,
Yeah,
and
you're so
inspiration
welcome.
and kindness, So thank you. It really was a privilege.
Thank you so much. We just love our connections, and a little shout out to one of our former Red Bra guests, Sajal Thacker. She was from episode number 57. So Sajal, thank you for doing your part in connecting incredible people. You are amazing. So thank you so much. And Laura, I didn't get to say, but I'm so sorry for all of the crazy hurt and loss you've had over the past year. So my heart goes out to you as well. I know that we've all been through some stuff, but I'm so sorry. And you are just a beautiful example of continuing to fill your life in some ways with joy and hope. So thank you.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome, and thank you.
So we close every episode with a quote, and the one that we chose for you is, when you press the pause button on a machine, it stops. But when you press the pause button on human beings, they start. Dov Seidman. So
Beautiful. Thank you.
you're welcome. And thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. We hope this story resonated with you. If it did, share it with somebody else who you think could use Laura's story in their life. Make sure to subscribe to the Red Bra Project. There's a bell somewhere. Just hit the subscribe and go on over and follow us on our Instagram page at the Red Bra Project, where all the updates and everything happen. You can read through all of our blogs from our previous guests on the redbraproject.com, or if you prefer to watch, you can check out our YouTube channel. So thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Laura, thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you.